This is Sam for Booredatwork.com, and today we're having a battle between the EVO 4G LTE from HTC and the Galaxy S3 from Samsung. Both Sprint 4G LTE phones, both of them amazing phones in their own rights. Now let's start with the HTC EVO 4G LTE, weighing in at 4.7 ounces with a 4.7 HD 720p Super LCD display, 2000 milliamp integrated battery, and 16 gigabytes of onboard memory. Your HTC EVO 4G LTE on your left. Now on the right corner, coming in at 4.7 ounces with a 4.8 1280 by 720 HD Super AMOLED display, 2100 milliamps lithium-ion swappable battery, and 16 gigabytes of expandable memory, expandable storage space, your Samsung Galaxy S3. Now, both these devices are pretty similar when it comes to just pure hardware. And that's the fact of the matter. In a lot of smartphones right now, you're not going to get you're not really going to differentiate them on hardware. You really are going to differentiate them on something else. How they both handle the operating system, how smooth it is, and even better, what added features they basically include from their end. Now, let's take a look at HTC. Let's take a look at the similarities first between both phones. Both phones come at about the 4.8, 4.7 inch displays, which are about comparable. Samsung, however, has a Super AMOLED display at 1280 by 720p, whereas the EVO 4G LTE only has, what he calls a Super LCD display. In its right, if you had this phone compared to any other previous generation phone, chances are you probably say the HTC EVO 4G LTE wins. But against the Super AMOLED screen at a 720p resolution, I'm sorry, even though the resolutions are the same, the Samsung wins out. Take a look at the HD video on the Samsung and you know exactly what I'm talking about. So display-wise, we go to Samsung. Weight-wise, 4.7 ounces to 4.7 ounces. As I said, you can't really differentiate really on hardware weight or really design this much nowadays because most of them follow some sort of standard. So they both tie on the weight. Battery life, 2100 milliamps, 2000 milliamps. Not the biggest difference, but the fact that the Samsung actually has a swappable battery, the Samsung takes that one. Now, this is going to be a tricky one. The operating system, they both have the ice cream sandwich on there. However, Samsung has its TouchWiz on there, whereas HTC has its Sense UI on there. Now, they both have positives and negatives. Now, I would say the positive on the Samsung side is it's actually tweaked TouchWiz quite a lot to make the look and feel a lot more compatible with what you have with the current version of Ice Cream Sandwich or the current version of the Google operating system. To me, that's a plus. You give someone something that looks quite familiar, but also kind of gives you that feel of having a next generation device. However, HTC is, stuck to a very, I think the best word would be a very comfortable environment, which is giving you the same recognition, the same look, and almost the same look and feel that you would get from any HTC device that came with even Android 2.3. Now, that's good if you don't want to lose customers, or if your customers are basically averse to change. They know the environment they're playing around in, or at least they feel comfortable in this new environment. However, you kind of take away from the new feel of that device. You don't let that device actually kind of, bring just that initial, oh wow, this is a new device kind of look and feel on there. So I would say on that point, HTC loses by sticking with a UI, or should I say with a UI skin that kind of looks dated. Whereas Samsung has really updated TouchWiz and kind of made the device seem just that little bit more, advanced. Now, camera-wise, they both come with 8 megapixels on the rear cameras. And the front cameras, the HTC comes with about 1.3 megapixel on the front, whereas the Samsung comes with 1.9 megapixels on the front. Now, 0.6 megapixels to me doesn't count for anything. So on this point, I say they're both ties when it comes to the hardware only. Now, where HTC shines on this point is HTC has included this, a dedicated camera button. Now, you might not think it's much. Hey, you're allowed to differ, or your opinion is allowed to differ from mine, hey, really doesn't make it right, but yeah. So you might not agree, but that is a big difference hardware-wise, because now you can just whip out your camera and start taking pictures. No need to, go back and forth or look for your camera app. It's a button. You can even click on it without looking at it, and you're right there in your camera. I like that about HTC. The pictures on both of these are about the same. The picture qualities are about the same. You're not really going to get much, anything much better from one or the other. However, now when you talk about feature sets, Samsung has now gone with what's called buddy share. You take a picture, you tag your buddy on it. Wow, Samsung realized this is your friend. Maybe you want to send a picture over to your friend. You tap on it, you hit email, and oh wow, all of a sudden you're emailing the picture directly from the camera app or directly from the gallery app straight to your friend. Now that is well thought out. So hardware-wise, with the physical button, I'll say HTC wins. Software and feature-wise, with buddy share, I'll say Samsung Galaxy S3 takes the gold. So on that point, I'll say it's a wash. I'll give them a tie. All right, next feature. Now this is going to be a hard one for HTC. I don't know if this is the case with Sprint, or if it's a Sprint issue, or if it's an HTC issue. But let's take a look at the basically installed apps. HTC came with Google Wallet installed, but guess what? Google Wallet doesn't quite work right out the box with them. In fact, it still doesn't work, and I have issues using Google Wallet on HTC's EVO 4G LTE. However, on Samsung Galaxy S3, that sucker works. I basically go in there, tap on the app, it updates, and bam, I sign up and I'm using Google Wallet. So Samsung wins on that one. If you're going to install anything on a device, which I have, do me a favor, make sure it works. So, installed apps, Samsung takes the gold. Expandable, they're both expandable in micro SD, so the limits are really on the micro SD sizes that you choose to put in either one of these devices. So I'll say that's a wash, and they both tie. Now, the standout features. I already mentioned buddy share, but Samsung also comes with S-Beam and S-Voice. Now, S-Beam is just another way of sharing basically apps, pictures, or contacts from your phone to another Samsung device or any other NFC device using the NFC chip in this device. So it's really not like a new technology. It's just a rebranding of NFC technology, which Samsung does pretty well. It's actually just made it a tap feature. You just basically put the phones together and you tap on it and it transfers the contents or the information you want. Now, S-Voice, on the other hand, is basically Samsung's answer to Siri. While not perfect, it is an answer to something that, to basically a feature that exists in a competitor's phone. That is well thought out by Samsung. Samsung is actually thinking of how they can make an Android device, how they can make their device comparable with your closest competitors, which right now is the iPhone. HTC, on the other hand, forgoes both, NFC sharing phone to phone. It doesn't really market it much, and it forgoes the whole, voice commands, which it sticks to Google's default voice commands in there. However, it does include Beats by Dre, which kind of gives you that extra bump on the sound side. So you basically plug in your headsets, turn on the beats, or it automatically comes on most of the time, and you can tell the difference between when beats are on and when beats are off. So on that point, I think that's a pretty good inclusion, as well as it has the kickstand. You might say the kickstand is not really the greatest, the latest and greatest. However, it is a feature that I find useful, and maybe some other people find useful based on how they use your device. So on that point, I'll say goes to the Galaxy S3, because the Galaxy S3 to me has features which I might use more often than HTC, but HTC does have features that automatically turn on, like Beats by Dre, which I think adds a little oomph but doesn't really differentiate itself on sound, and the kickstand, which might be useful, might not be useful. Hey, you decide. So overall, I say it's a win for the Galaxy S3. This battle is over. This has been Sam for Booredatwork.com. Peace.